Our first speaker in this session is the amazing Robin Wright. Robin is the head Australasia and Asia Pacific for the Digital Preservation Coalition, a global membership organisation working together to bring about a sustainable future for digital assets. She supports the activities of local members with a focus on the impact of copyright legislation on digital preservation. Robin was previously manager of scholarly resources at Swinburne University of Technology, a research fellow at the Centre of Media and Communication Law at the Melbourne Law School, and has also practiced as a solicitor. Robin has made submissions to law reform inquiries into Australian copyright law and has an ongoing interest in the intersection of copyright law and the reuse of digital content. She is the co-lead of the Australian chapter of Creative Commons and is on the board of the Australian Digital Alliance. Please welcome Robin Wright.
Thank you, Jim. I forgot they read out all that stuff about you. So thank you, everyone. It's great to see you all here. I can see you as long as I put my hand up for the lights. So I'm very pleased to be speaking here today. I'm the head Australasia and Asia Pacific with the Digital Preservation Coalition, which some of you will know about. And if you would like some more information about the DPC, there is some merchandise down along the front of the stage. You can pick up stickers and cards to find out more about what the DPC does. So just before we start, I wanted to say I've come here today from NAM, Melbourne, in Australia, and I'd like to acknowledge and pay my respects to the traditional owners and custodians of the land we're meeting on here today. So I know there are many DPC members and friends here today in the audience, which is great. It's lovely to see you. But for anyone who doesn't know, I'd like to introduce the organisation. We are a charitable foundation established in the UK 20 years ago by a group of memory organisations, including archives, museums, galleries, organisations who could see 20 years ago that human beings had made a decision to turn our most valuable information and cultural resources into this new, fragile digital medium and had little or no idea about how they were going to preserve it beyond 5, 10, 50, 100 years. So that's why the DPC came together. We're now a global community working together to bring about a sustainable future for digital assets around the world. And the next slide shows logos of many of our members. We have over 150 members worldwide now, which is very exciting, and they are a range of different types of organisations, including archives, cultural institutions, broadcasters, universities, scientific and commercial organisations. But they're all holders of important digital content and recognise the need for it to be preserved. Here in Australasia and Asia Pacific, we currently have 22 member organisations, which my director informed me the other day is about 14.6% of the global number of members. And we're growing fast. When I started a year and a half ago, we had 17 members in our area. So now we have 22, which is great. Our members here, they range from the National Library Board of Singapore right across to Natonga Sound and Vision here in Wellington, and a number of organisations from Australia in between. So our members here include archives, museums, galleries and universities, and our most recent member is the Commonwealth Bank of Australia's Group Archives. So, like with the global community, we're very keen to have commercial organisations also involved. This is not just for libraries and archives. Digital is for everybody. So the DPC operates under a current strategic plan from 2022 to 2027. And through that plan, we aim to build a welcoming and inclusive community working together to bring about a sustainable future for our digital assets. And our activities fall under 5 main objectives: community, advocacy for digital preservation, because a lot of people don't understand the importance of taking action to preserve digital content; workforce development, we offer a lot of training resources and courses; good practice, We aim to achieve good practice for all our members with digital preservation, and we are an accountable, sustainable and dynamically governed organisation. So we define digital preservation as the series of managed activities necessary to ensure continued access to digital materials for as long as necessary. And for some of our members, as long as necessary could be forever. And as I said, we work with some scientific and commercial organisations. One of our members is the UK's Nuclear Decommissioning Authority. So of course they have a real important need for their digital content to be readable a long way in the future by human beings 100, 200, 500 years' time. So some of our members are preserving forever, some of them are not, but they all need to know how to preserve their digital content. So to support our members with their digital preservation activities, the DPC holds events, offers training and publishes resources, and this is as directed by the needs of our members. Our members sit on the board, and every year they advise us about what they need to find out about in the following year, and that's how we decide to deliver our program. On the DPC website, you'll find access to our upcoming events and links to resources such as our Digital Preservation Handbook, the Novice to Know-How online training modules, which are freely available. Any of you can go in and register and do the Novice to Know-How training to give you and your staff a basic understanding of the needs of digital preservation. The RAM, Rapid Assessment Model tool that I'll be talking about a bit more later. And resources such as our policy, business case and procurement toolkits. So there's a lot of very useful resources there for anyone. In most cases, they're available to the whole world. Some is only available to members, but most, because we're a charitable foundation, most of our material is available to everybody. In the Australian time zone, we run a series of watch parties with recordings of events held in the UK or elsewhere, so that we, in this part of the world, don't always have to get up in the middle of the night to participate. And we run local DP clinic events to address issues identified by our local community here. So as a global organisation, our remit extends to the activities and needs of many different organisations in different parts of the world. We develop and share training, advocacy and good practice. We are a forum for collaboration, and we are committed to the UN Sustainable Development Goals. The DPC's inclusion and diversity policy commits us to engaging with the work and participation of diverse and underrepresented communities, as well as taking steps to avoid cultural appropriation and advance the decolonisation of digital preservation. So the preservation of traditional media is fairly well understood and developed. Most of you know about it, most people understand it, most politicians understand it. The systems around how to do it are robust and well developed. And we have experience and an understanding of the value of what we're preserving and why. But for digital preservation, it's not so clear. Digital media can be lost through media degradation, technical obsolescence, as well as through human actions such as organisational change. The tools, standards and principles that have developed around digital preservation came initially from attempts by big science to provide technical solutions to the loss of digital bits. But this didn't necessarily consider some of the human, social and ethical issues that are important for those engaged in digital preservation today. In particular, where and how these technology-based DP processes may embed the hegemonic and colonial assumptions we are now questioning around knowledge management. And it is the archive and library sectors that are the first to be addressing this challenge at scale. So I love this diagram. Digital preservation is often seen as primarily a technical problem. So this is a schematic diagram of the Open Archival Information System, OAIS, functional model that was established 20 years or more ago. And this has formed the basis for much of the digital preservation processes that we use today. So the model came out of the Consultative Committee for Space Data Systems in 1999, and it was later revised for use by libraries, cultural institutions, government and the private sector. And it became the ISO standard 14721 and has been regularly reviewed. But it has remained largely unchanged and remains the de facto standard for digital preservation systems. It has established most of the terminology and concepts used to describe digital archiving. But 20 years on, we may need to review some of those concepts. So the graphic has been simplified. Here the diagram's been simplified at least to add people. And another useful model for digital preservation is the three-legged stool, and that suggests that digital preservation isn't only about technology. But the DPC is now looking at taking this further with our resources. There's a lot of work being done in Australia and elsewhere at the moment in the area of Indigenous data sovereignty and data governance. And of course, here you have the Maori Data Sovereignty Network and researchers looking at the ethical use of Maori data. So as part of our regular review of the DPC RAM resource, which I'll talk about in a minute, we are considering how we can incorporate the requirements outlined in the International Council of Archives Tandanya Adelaide Declaration and the CARE principles for Indigenous data governance into the next version of our resource. We're looking at the use of definitions and terminology and at the difference between including overarching statements or references to other documentation and/or altering specific elements of the resource itself. So these are examples of some sections of the Tandanya Declaration that we felt were particularly relevant for what we were trying to do with the RAM resource. The Tandanya Declaration particularly notes the need to acknowledge the politics of knowledge production and to ensure that access to records containing Indigenous cultural expression, beliefs and knowledge is only provided in consultation with affiliated communities. And we want to use this to amend and incorporate these requirements into RAM where we can. The DPC has already included references to a consideration of some ethical issues in some of our existing publications, and these are a couple of them. In 2021, the DPC published a Technology Watch guidance note on exploring ethical considerations for providing access to digital heritage collections held in archives. It provides a case study of approaches and tools that have been useful for collection management professionals at the Australian Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies, IATSIS. But we should be doing more. As I said, this year we're undertaking a review of our RAM resource. The DPC RAM is a maturity model for digital preservation. It allows organisations to benchmark their digital preservation capabilities. It can be used to review their organisation and activities to establish where the organisation is now with their digital preservation capabilities and where they want to be at a point in the future so that they can talk to management about how to get there. To do this, there are 11 capabilities that the organisation needs to consider and rank themselves as their achievement for that capability. It's simple and easy to use. It works for any size and type of organisation and for any type of digital content. It's based on good practice and was developed by the DPC along with the UK's Nuclear Decommissioning Authority in 2019, and version 2 was released in 2022. So the 11 capabilities that are reviewed, that you review when you're using the RAM tool, are divided into two sections. The first are 6 organisational capabilities, which include organisational viability, policy and strategy, legal basis, perhaps most importantly, IT, capacity and capability, continuous improvement and community. And then the second section has 5 service capabilities, which cover the more technical aspects of digital preservation. And these include acquisition, transfer and ingest, bitstream preservation, content preservation, metadata management, discovery and access. So this is a very useful tool, gives you an overall view of your position with digital preservation, and it helps with organising your planning for the future. The RAM resource is one of our most useful tools, and it's widely used, but versions 1 and 2 had very limited references to ethical considerations. But we review RAM every 2 years, and we're currently working on a new version to be released in 2024. So we're trying to incorporate some responses to the issues arising from the Tandanya Declaration and the CARE principles into the new version. As a start, we're aiming to review how the resources address issues such as notions of ownership beyond Western definitions, where content is stored geographically, community consultation around access, building respectful ethical relationships with affected groups for acquisition, descriptions and metadata about Indigenous communities being authored in partnership with those communities, and the right to reply for community members. And this is part of a wider review of the resource. It will be followed by a period of consultation, an opportunity for our members and other affected communities to let us know what's missing or what they think needs to be added. And we also have an associated resource, Levelling Up with DPC RAM, which provides case studies of how members have addressed the different specific capabilities and provides further resources and information for our members to use, or for anyone to use. So we'll add relevant guidelines around and protocols on Indigenous data sovereignty and governance to this resource as well. The DPC RAM is a resource that's freely available for download from our website for anyone to use. As I said, it's simple and easy to use by any sized organisation anywhere in the world. But to maintain this simplicity, we need to use concise language. We want it to be relevant around the world for a range of different users. And the RAM is also available in 9 languages in addition to English. And we hope it will be translated to more in the future. It's just been released in 2 Chinese editions. So a new version creates challenges there for us as well, because all our translations are done by volunteers, some of them members of the organisation. And we'd like to take the opportunity to listen, consult and learn from affected communities as we make these changes. Most importantly, this is a resource that measures how well we're all doing digital preservation. So it needs to incorporate the rights and needs of Indigenous communities to make sure that we're measuring that properly. Our first steps may be imperfect, but we've made the decision that it's better to try and learn from the process. So we're just starting. We feel it's important to recognise the historical context of the development of digital preservation practices and to work towards addressing this by incorporating the CARE principles for Indigenous data sovereignty where we can. We want to listen and learn from Indigenous communities and our users who deal with Indigenous content, and to ensure that we're taking action towards decolonising digital preservation and working to continuously improve the DPC's resources and digital preservation practice. So thank you. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have. I wanted to say that we had hoped that you might have some ideas about how digital preservation practice can engage with communities that have different needs around data and information use. And we'd certainly like to start ongoing discussions around how the DPC's activities and resources can better reflect and support underrepresented communities and storytellers. So please get in touch if you'd like to discuss it further. Have a look at our website, or you can pick up contact details on the front of the stage here. So thank you very much.
Shall we move over to the couch? Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you very much indeed, Robin. We have some time now for Q&A. I'd love to start. These are a really exciting suite of changes. Why now? Like, what specifically brought about this set of changes?
I think, like so many things that the DPC does, it's arisen from our members, but also our engagement with the broader community. We had some members of the DPC come out from the UK to Australasia earlier this year, and we had a lot of discussion. We held events about digital preservation with a lot of members and also non-members, and people came and talked. And there were a lot of representatives of Indigenous communities who came and talked about the problems that we're having to address in Australia now with archival content and the damages that has done through colonialism and how people can help and things we could do. So the DPC decided we wanted to be part of that.
Fantastic. I can't remember if I said it in so many words. Please submit your questions on Slido using the code NDF23. As this person has done, wanted to know that the cost of employing digital preservation specialists is out of reach for many GLAM organisations in Aotearoa. Do you have any examples of national consortia or groups coming together to provide access to a collective digital preservation platform?
No, I don't actually. That's a very good question. I don't know any such examples, but the DPC really appreciates the problem that you've outlined. That's why a lot of our resources are freely available, and also we're very committed to training, and we realise that the training that's available for digital preservation specialists is still fairly limited. So in Australia, we're certainly working with the universities who train in information management to try and incorporate digital preservation into their training courses. But of course, that's 4 years down the track before the graduates come out. So we appreciate that that's a problem, and we certainly see around the world everyone's saying the same thing. We need people with those skills. But the question about platforms, I think perhaps is a broader one, needs to be addressed. The DPC is vendor neutral, so we don't deal with any specific vendors. But if I find out about a collective solution like that, I'll let you know.
Great. Another question coming in. What does, if an organisation becomes a member of the DPC, what does that mean for them?
It means that you're a member of our community. We support you. You get access to attend our events. We have some member-only events, and access to apply for scholarships through our Community Development Fund. But most important, you're part of a collective group, and you can interact with your community. If you're a member, we'll help you with your RAM. So specialists from the UK will come along and help you conduct your RAM. And if you submit your RAM to the global community, we also put out anonymised benchmarking data, and if you're a member, you can have access to that data, and so it allows you to compare your digital preservation standard with similar organisations around the world.
Fantastic. I want to say I very much appreciate that the RAM has a picture of a RAM, because I think there's so much crossover between digital preservation and sort of one way of looking at a digital archive is that similar to a zoo, like if you have a digital file, the format of that may change over time depending on the hardware and software that's available to you. Just like at a zoo, they'll have a tiger, but they won't always have the same tiger.
That's a good point.
It's not mine. It's someone else's. I can't remember whose it is. Anyway, on that somewhat bizarre tangent, will you please thank Robin Wright?